Welcome to another episode of The Empowered Empaths. This is Wanda Vitale, your host, and today I want to talk about something else that comes up quite often with clients, and that is persistence. So, I believe that we as empaths are here to change the world because we've done so much inner work where we love everybody else, and we're learning, or we've learned to love ourselves. Well, and part of loving ourselves is loving our dreams, loving ourselves enough to live the kinds of lives that we want, not a life of fitting in, making somebody else happy, but really creating a life that we love to get up to, to wake up to. So I just had this come up about someone told me that, well, somebody else teaches creation and that person says to just be persistent. And here's what I want to say about that. So, how do we create? We go to the end. We imagine what we'd love to live. If you want to be an artist, and say if you want to be an artist, or if you want to be a coach, to work with other people, to help other people with the things that you've learned in your life, what do? Well, you would just create a scene, an imaginal scene where you are that person, because that version of you already exists. All versions of you exist. So our dreams are really just bleed throughs of other potentials that already exist in the quantum field or in infinity, whatever your word is for it. So you create an imaginal scene and you become that version of you. What's that version of you saying? How does it, what do you think? How do you feel about the things that are important to you now? We literally merge with that version of us, right? Lots of people teach that. It's Neville Goddard, it's Seth, it's, I think, still Abraham. But here's where people get hung up, because most people are teaching this from the messy middle, from the world of form, from the viewpoint of the ego or the mind. And that's not where the magic happens. So some people will say, well, while your new life is taking place, when situations occur that seem to be contradictory, you've just got to persist. So what persist looks like when you're in the messy middle of looking at conditions, you're saying, oh my God, I don't want this. Oh my God, something's going wrong. I'm doing something wrong. I'm going to have to get a regular job. This isn't going to work out. That's what most people say. And so teachers will say, well, you've got to persist. So for them, that means you've got to look at those intolerable conditions and persist with your seeing. And so that is like, can you feel the resistance in that? Can you feel oh my God, can you just feel the brakes go on? Like a dog that you're leash training and he puts all fours down on the ground and doesn't want to go any farther. Well, that's what happens. So we have to not look at those outside conditions as meaning anything. So we don't have to have persistence, because that's just sticking it out in unwanted conditions. But so what do? We have conviction. And this is how I just teach this differently. What does conviction mean? Conviction means you know that you are source. You know that who are you really? Not your ego. Who you are is I am that. You are pure awareness. You're aware of changing conditions. You're aware of things that you don't prefer. You're aware of what you do prefer. Who you are is awareness. So when you know that your real identity is awareness, or I am that thing I am focused on, I am that thing, that situation that I'm aware of, you stand in your conviction of, I know how this works. I know I am lighting up unseen potentials with my awareness. And that's all I ever have to do. I just have to keep my focus on what I want, on that imaginal scene. I talk about it. I change my inner conversation to reflect that it's right here, right now. And I stand in my conviction of how universal laws operate, and knowing that there are no exceptions to universal laws. None. So we don't need persistence. We need conviction. Conviction in knowing who we are, conviction in understanding universal laws, conviction in knowing that whatever we focus on and whatever we light up with our awareness and our attention must happen. It's quantum physics, right? In physics, when we focus on something, when we judge it as true, when we decide that something is true or is done, like every time we react and say, oh no, we just collapsed a wave that would otherwise keep moving, keep changing. But when we focus on something and talk about it as though it's true and done and no more and no longer changing, that's just what we created. So, we're walking, talking reality. We announce reality with our thoughts, with our words, with the stories we tell, with what we're assuming, right? We're walking, talking reality. So we don't need persistence. There's absolutely no need to tolerate intolerable conditions. There's another way that we work this. We stand in conviction, knowing what's real, knowing that everything is real, whether it's seen or unseen. But we stand in our conviction of universal laws. Whatever I focus on and continue to focus on has no choice but to show up in form. And the how is not my job. And that's what hangs up most people, the how, not our job. Way, way above our pay grade. Our job is to be the focuser of our awareness, to be the focuser of our consciousness, and then pay attention to evidence of whatever it is that we're looking to experience, to notice that as the evidence starts to show up instead of noticing what we don't want. So I hope this makes sense, but there's a huge difference between persistence, sticking it out with your ego and with your mind, versus standing in conviction, knowing who you really are, knowing how universal laws work, knowing what your role is in this, and absolutely knowing that no matter what appearances indicate, everything you want, everything you desire is turning from the unseen to the seen. We don't need persistence then. We just need to stand in our conviction. And that is what makes miracles happen. That is what makes creates what other people call magic in the world. It's what creates that bridge of incidents, those magical orchestrations of opportunities and people, ideas, things that show up that just come in out of left field that you could never orchestrate on your own. So I hope this helps. I'd love to hear your comments, what you think about persistence and conviction and how the two are different. Thanks for listening. And again, this is Wanda Vitale with the Empowered Empaths. You can find me on Facebook under Wanda Vitale, and my public group called the Empowered Empaths. And I have a private group called Ditch the Doubt and Dance with Creation, where we go into the nuts and bolts of next level manifesting. And I talk about, where everybody gets hung up. Me too, where I used to get hung up. I want you to have an amazing life. I want you to wake up in the morning and say, I love my life. I do. I do. And you can have that too. Thanks for listening, guys.